We will now call the September 3rd, 2024 Common Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Here.
Lorik.
Here.
Ritz.
Here.
Marshall. Here. Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Tom, you want to start us off? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is the approval of minutes from August 20th, 2024. I'll give you a moment. If there's any questions, errors, omissions, or discussions, please just take the floor. Satisfied there's no discussion on the minutes of August 20th, 2024. Motion, please.
Marshall moved to approve the minutes of August 20th, 2024.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Ritz.
Aye.
Marshall. Aye. Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
And item 4 is our first public hearing, and it's consideration of a zoning text amendment. It is to consider a proposed amendment to Table 17.0304 sub C, the municipal code, to allow general retail less than 50,000 square feet and warehouse storage less than 200,000 square feet as a conditional use in the M1 manufacturing district. Catherine, would you please read that in?
Certainly. Public hearing number 1 is to consider an ordinance to amend Table 17.0304 sub C of the municipal code to allow general retail less than 50,000 square feet and warehouse storage less than 200,000 square feet as conditional uses in the LM-1 light manufacturing zoning district. Date of notice is August 7th, 2024.
Thank you, Catherine. With us is Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Common Council. Christy Lane, Community Development Director. This application was submitted by a developer who's interested in developing a parcel on Rawson. What you see before you is the table that lists permitted uses and conditional uses. The permitted uses are identified with the letter P, and conditional uses are identified with the letter C. So general retail, less than 50,000 square feet, is a permitted use in Drexeltown Square, conditional use in the B2, permitted in B4, permitted in B6. It is currently blank in the light manufacturing district, and so it's highlighted with the pink tone that the proposal is to make it a conditional use in that particular zoning district. And same with warehouse storage less than 200,000 square feet. That particular use is only allowed in the manufacturing district as a permitted use. The proposal is to make it a conditional use in the light manufacturing district. This stems from a conceptual plan that the Plan Commission has reviewed and recommended a conditional use permit contingent upon this zoning text amendment being approved by the Common Council. This was originally scheduled for public hearing at the council meeting that we August 5th, thank you. The Plan Commission did recommend approval. And again, just showing the conceptual plan, the conditional use permit for this particular user, if this zoning text amendment were to be approved, will go before the Common Council on October 1st, and then a site plan before the Common Council the following week in October. We've received no letters of objection to date, and the Plan Commission recommended approval on July 9th.
Right, thank you, Christy. As this is a public hearing, I will make 3 calls. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach the podium, give your name and address. This will be the first call. Second call. Anyone wishing to speak? Third and final call. We will now close the public hearing and go on to item 5. And that is consideration of the ordinance amending Table 17.0304 sub C of the municipal code to allow general retail in less than 50,000 square foot and warehouse storage of less than 200,000 square feet as a conditional use in the LM1 manufacturing zoning district. Open it up to council. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Just for everyone's knowledge, probably have received 24 complaints about this property over the past several years because since the Mega Discount Nursery closed, it has turned into a real eyesore. And this isn't the first go around with somebody trying to develop it. The first time it was just a mess because the owner owed money to the bank wanted to be paid, the developer wouldn't get a loan until the bank got paid. It was just a triangle of a mess. So to see that this guy, this developer wants to come in and do something with that, with this change, I would wholeheartedly support this so that that property can get developed and not be the eyesore that it is right now.
Wonderful. Ken?
Christie, Andrew may know too. What is the prevalence of the LM1 zoning district in the city?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was the question?
What's the prevalence of that zoning code in the city?
Like the light manufacturing?
Yeah, how much is it used in the city? Do you have any feel for that?
Ooh, I think I'm sorry, I don't have an answer directly for you, but it's minimal.
Couple examples, Ken, would be the St. John's properties
Yes.
over on Rawson Avenue, just east of College. I believe light manufacturing went in just behind Gary's. There was an there. Another example of it was those condo storage units that went in on Polk some years back.
Okay.
This is kind of a textbook example of why the city kind of went with this type of zoning. There'll be really no manufacturing of parts, so to speak, but it wears that retail warehouse. You could do small widgets in it, but it really fits this particular use. It hasn't been used heavily. Those are the best examples.
Because a conditional use permit is kind of, unless there's a really pressing reason not to, you pretty much have to give it. So it's my only hesitation.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, that begs to ask then, should it be a conditional use permit? Should it just be permitted?
No, I think it's good to review because every business is kind of different as to what they may do or not do. In this case, it's a very passive use. The applicant's been in here. The front part of it will be like a showroom, like if you're picking out new plumbing fixtures. That's actually what it is. Bathrooms, it's not open to the public. It'll come in, it'll be contractor use, things like that. And the back is some warehouse space where they store stuff to ship out to new homes and remodels and things like that. The applicant's here. If you have more questions, she can probably give you greater
I
detail
think
than I
that the
can.
general Danny was just on the prevalence. Because
Yeah.
once you grant it, it's
Yeah,
but it sounds like it's very restrained in terms of where it's actually used in the city. So I
yeah.
don't know if you had any color in that, Andrew, or not, but I don't remember from the land use.
I guess I would just ask, what industrial uses is warehousing allowed above 200,000 square feet in that district? So I don't know the whole district very well, Ken, and how the text works throughout, but it seems like it's a pretty strategic or maybe less broad than other categories in the city. So this is probably fine. And given you have, industrial uses here, at least, I think you'd want to have some, that be a conditional
I
instead
would
of a
certainly not
permitted.
want it automatically.
Yeah, and right now we're silent on it, I believe, is
Right.
the issue, so.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Okay, seeing none, motion on 5.
Kirkowski will make a motion to adopt ordinance number 3107, amending table 17.0304 sub C of the municipal code to allow general retail less than 50,000 square feet and warehouse storage less than 200,000 square feet as conditional uses in the LM1 light manufacturing zoning district.
Clark seconds.
Roll call?
Alderman Ritz?
Aye.
Marshall?
Aye.
Gale?
Aye.
Guzekowski?
Aye.
Kirkowski?
Aye.
Lorick?
Aye.
Okay. Item 6 is public hearing to consider a proposal to discuss an ordinance adopting the floodplain ordinance for the city of Oak Creek in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Common Council.
I'm sorry, wait.
You gotta read the.
Catherine's got
sorry.
to read it in. Got my councils mixed up Got my nights mixed up.
Public hearing number 2 is discuss an ordinance adopting the floodplain ordinance for the city of Oak Creek, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. Date of notice is August 7th, 2024.
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Common Council members. Chris Sealing, Community Development Director. So FEMA has recently updated their firm maps, also known as floodplain maps, for all municipalities in Milwaukee County. And they are requiring, this is a federal and state mandated update, that each of these communities update their floodplain ordinance. It's, if not adopted on time, there's a very stringent timeline that the FEMA and the state have provided to each municipality. If not adopted on time, all properties in Oak Creek that are members of the National Floodplain Insurance Program will be suspended. The DNR did provide a template ordinance update to us. It's 46-page documents. It is the content-wise compared to what the city of Oak Creek has adopted now. Not substantial changes. However, it does include the updated firm maps as mentioned previously. It's truly just like a formality process. Again, every community in Milwaukee County is going through this timeline right now. The Plan Commission did review this and recommended approval at their August 27th meeting. And the DNR has approved the version that I provided to them specifically for Oak Creek.
Thank you, Christie. As this is a public hearing, I will make 3 calls. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach podium, give your name and address. This will be the first call. Second call. Third and final call. We'll now close the public hearing and go on to item 7, which is consideration of adoption of that ordinance for the floodplain ordinance for the city of Oak Creek. I'll open it up. Council members, questions? Yeah.
And this sounds like it came before planning. I recall, did you guys have any commentary from, were there new properties impacted by this new floodplain map or not?
No. Basically, as Christie kind of said, it's a requirement by FEMA, and it's done every 10 years, I
I
think.
think it has been quite some time.
Yeah, it's and there are deadlines. So if
I
we-
understand that. I'm
yeah.
just wondering, because I know in certain
That-
times in the past it had been significantly impactful here in the city. I'm just wondering if new properties were impacted or not, and they weren't aware.
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
That wasn't brought up to us by FEMA. Basically, the gist of it is it's better data as far as
I know you
elevations.
talked about
Yeah.
how they used satellite mapping.
Right. The last ones were done in 2008. So it's been 16 years since they've been updated.
So, yeah, we did discuss it, and it really, the push came right about the time our planning staff was going through some staffing changes, and kudos to them for pulling it together, because there was some hard, fast deadlines on getting this done, and between the former staff and current staff, it all got in on time, and we're in good shape as long as we decide to adopt it. But it would limit us if there was a flood or something like that, if we didn't have this done for insurance purposes. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, motion on 7.
I'll move to approve ordinance 3110, floodplain ordinance for the city of Oak Creek, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call?
Alderwoman Marshall?
Aye.
Gale?
Aye.
Guzekowski?
Aye.
Kirkowski?
Aye.
Lorick?
Aye.
Ritz?
And item 8 is informational only, and it is the annual tax increment district review presentation, and Max is gonna take this one.
Thank you, Mayor and Common Council. Max Gagan, Deputy City Administrator and Finance Officer. Right, so I'll just kind of get started on some of the overview. So before you tonight is our annual tax increment district review. So we do this once a year, just kind of apprise the mayor and common council as to the status of our tax increment districts, as well as explain kind of what is a tax increment district, how it works. So looking at just presentation outline, we'll do a brief overview of tax increment financing and tax increment districts. We'll talk about the 12% test. We'll then talk about the status of Oak Creek's tax increment districts, and then any questions common council may have. So one of the large questions we get is, what's the difference between TIF and TID? So TIF stands for tax increment financing, and that's the economic development tool that allows the municipalities to expand the property base. So that's the actual levying of the dollars in order to make those investments for private and public development. Whereas the tax increment district is the geographic location where the TIF funds are levied and then used. So if you think of it, TID is more of the area, TIF is more of the financing mechanism. Just looking at tax increment districts by the numbers. So as of April 16th of this year, so that's the beginning of the new TID year per the state, there's 1,400 active TID districts, and 132 of those are in Milwaukee County. All cities in Milwaukee County have a district. All municipalities do except one, Fox Point. The equalized value of all active TIDs in Wisconsin is $57.6 billion, so pretty significant amount of money. And a TID is the only meaningful tool we have in Wisconsin to really engage in economic development. There's many other states that authorize property tax abatements, sales tax abatements, so on and so forth, whereas under state statute, those are both outlawed tools for us in Wisconsin, so really tax increment financing is our best and only tool. Just want to briefly touch on a couple of common misconceptions when it comes to TIF or TID. So one, creating a TID will increase taxes, and that's not necessarily true. Again, the TID is the geographic area. So if you create a TID in a geographic area and there's no development in it, it doesn't create taxes or increase taxes because no development occurred that would require a levy to support. Two, a developer's get rich quick scheme, which is not accurate in that whenever we do a finance development agreement, we have to do a pro forma analysis, and by state statute, it has to meet the but-for clause, which says that the development would not move forward but for the assistance of the municipality. And number three is developers do not pay their taxes. The city gives out free money. And again, that's not true, because if a property is in a district and it develops, that property owner then pays taxes, and then it's really incumbent on the city. If they have a finance development agreement, they can agree to share some of those taxes back, but that's not required. So the developers do pay the taxes, and then it's really up to the discretion of the city as to whether or not they want to provide some of that back as an investment to incite the development. And lastly, general taxpayers of the city are negatively impacted financially by a TID. So when a TID is created, and development occurs, there is a levy to it, and that levy is spread across the tax base, but I think of it more as an investment. So if these properties wouldn't develop but for the city's assistance, then that development would not occur. And where you see the benefit of tax increment financing and TIDs is when, we invest in the geographic area, all the properties are at a highest and best use, the project plan's fulfilled. When that TID district closes, the levy ceases to exist, and that decreases the tax burden because of the levy decrease, but it also is sharing the existing levy over a larger tax base. So if you think about it, if you have a smaller levy, that's one thing, but if you have a smaller levy and you can share it over a larger value of properties, that's generally what you see when a TID closes. So just understanding the TIF financing mechanism, so it starts with a base value. So the base value is the value of a property or a parcel when the TID is created. So when the TID creation date is, if it has, say, a value of $0, that's the base value. And the increment value is the amount of value that's created above and beyond the base value. So the example you'll see on your screen, say if a property had zero value or $1, we'll say, and that property developed with $15 million on it, it would pay $270,000 worth of taxes. If that property wasn't in a TID, we would get about $87,000 of that for our city operations. If that property is in a TID, we get to keep 100% of that revenue, so the $270,000. And then again, when the TID terminates, all the taxing jurisdictions receive the benefit of the higher tax revenues generated by the development. So I guess the best way to really illustrate this is through this chart. So what you'll see is that on the left-hand side, you can see where the TID is created. You can see the base value and the property values. You can see that the taxing jurisdictions are collecting, in this case, an equal amount as the base value of the district. And then you can see that green triangle, which is the amount of value in tax levy generated due to development in the area. So the city receives 100% of that green triangle, and that's really the investment back into the geographic area or to incent the developer to build. And what you see on that red line on the right side is when the TID terminates, that all of the higher tax revenues are shared amongst the taxing jurisdictions. So I guess the best way to think about this is it's really an investment by all the other taxing jurisdictions to see development with the understanding that when a district closes, you're going to all realize higher tax revenues. So looking a little bit at Oak Creek's history with our TIDs and TID closures. So all of our TIDs have closed early except for TID number 6, which was the one that just closed earlier this year. And you can see how much value those TIDs have generated. Many of them are pretty small, other than TID 1 that was pretty substantial at $134 million. Looking at our general obligation debt as a city. So our general obligation debt, we have about $90 million of general obligation debt outstanding, and 78% of that is found within TIDs. And 60% of that is specifically in TID number 11, so Drexel Town Square, and TID number 13, which is the lakefront. So we've had some pretty significant investments in those areas in the last 10 years. So you would see that that's what you would see with that level of investment. You'll also see the third largest source of paying off our general obligation debt is utility aid. So that's aid we have for the Oak Creek power plant being within our jurisdiction. And you'll also notice that the tax levy, so what the general taxpayers pay, is 4%. And that's relatively low. What you see in many communities, that average is about 15 to 20%. So very fortunate we have well-performing TIDs, and we have utility aid that can really service that debt so it doesn't burden the general taxpayer. Next, I referred to it earlier, but there is under state statute what's called the 12% test. So the equalized value of all of your TIDs in your community cannot exceed 12% of the total equalized value. So essentially, the state is trying to control so not too much of your tax burden is within a TID district and it's not paying for your general operating expenses, things like public safety, parks and recreation, so on and so forth. So what you'll see here is our values as of January 1st, 2024. The community's value is $5.84 billion. 12% of that is about $700 million. You can see the increment for our 9 open tax increment districts is $942,000 million. So you can see we're well over 12%. We're actually just over 16%. That doesn't mean we can't continue with the TIDs. It just means that we cannot create another district until we get under 12%. So right now we're a little bit hamstrung in that we could not create a new district if we wanted to until we fell under that 12% limit. Now just looking specifically at the city of Oak Creek's districts, here's a map of Oak Creek. You can kind of see where all the districts are at. You can see that there's a significant district, District Number 7 on the far west side of the community, and then the next largest district geographically is TID 13 on the lakefront. So, and I'll go through each of these. If you have any questions as I go through, feel free to stop me. So before we go into individual districts, just want to provide a high-level overview to the Common Council of the values for our districts and what has changed between 2023 and 2024. And what you'll see is you'll actually see a lot of red, and that red's not to be scaring, as the council is aware. Wisconsin Act 12 in 2023 exempted personal property. So that resulted in a loss of TID value of about $62 million locally and about $15 million from the state, so manufacturing. The city does receive aid payments for that lost revenue or lost levy. And when I looked at it, it looks like it was very fair. So just because some of these districts show pretty significant losses doesn't necessarily mean that they're now in an adverse position, because as the levy decreased in this proportion, the state provided an aid payment in this proportion. So essentially it netted to zero.
Maxine, does the aid payment is the aid payment outside the TID from a financing standpoint?
The aid payment is attributed to each district. So there's a personal property aid payment that is just to the city, and that's for all property exempt personal property that wasn't in a TID district. And then each TID district gets its own exempt personal property aid payment for the value that lies within that district, or that did lie in that.
That's required to stay inside the county mechanism?
Correct. When the TID district closes, that aid does revert back to the municipality. But it doesn't revert back at 100%, because again, in theory, if we were collecting 100% of the taxes, but we're only about 32% of the tax burden, so we get about 32% of that aid when the district closes. But you'll see there are several districts that did show positive increment, even with the exemption of personal property. So certainly TID 7, TID 13 had a significant activity this year. And you see the ones that had some pretty significant decreases, 11 and 16, that's exclusively personal property that's driving those losses there. And same with 8 and 10 as well. So now just going into each of our districts. So TID number 7, this again encompasses most of the west side of the community. So from 27th Street to Drexel to the interstate down to Elm. Very significant district geographically as well as by increment. So it does generate $3.1 million worth of levy each year to help support its project plan and costs. This district did have its expenditure period lapse a few years ago. It does have a mandatory termination date in 2027. We do have a little bit of debt outstanding, but this district is in a position that it could close today. It has enough cash to do so. But because we didn't close it before April 15th of this year, we do have to levy taxes for 2025's budget. But even if we do that, we'll still be in a really good position. And when this district closes, again, the entire TID levy is about $18 million, and this is $3 million. So think of the TID levy, you're decreasing it almost 18% when this district closes. So would provide pretty significant tax relief to the community. And as well as when you close a district, you do have the ability to re-levy some of those dollars for your operating budget. So certainly when this district closes as well, really help relieve some budgetary challenges.
So, can I jump in, Mr. Mayor? So this will be, and just kind of put this away for now in the back of your mind, this will be a conversation we're prepared to have as early as this budget workshop, although we're already in for next year on this. But over the next couple of years, we'll look at net new construction, we'll look at some other operating, or inflationary costs, and really talk through with the council how you strategically want and when to close that district for that budgetary relief that it will provide in the year following. So it's good that Max brought it up tonight. We've been kicking it around, and really we can take some time at the budget workshop in early October and have that conversation with some data for you to see on what those impacts would be.
That, closing that one will give us some space for,
It will get us closer. So when this district closes, we'll go from 16.2% down to 13.1%. So pretty significant. It's really going to take the closure of another one of the larger mega districts, I'll call it. So 11, 13, or 16, and those aren't conceivably going to close until 2032 at the earliest, which would be 11. Unless, you know, for some reason the value of the community grew significantly, but not within a TID district, which is pretty abnormal. You generally see most of your new construction and activity within a TID district.
So if we had the ability to close it, and it would give us budgetary relief, why didn't we? Am I missing something?
So this district, I can tell you right now, it only has the cash today to service the debt because it's earned so much interest in the last 6 months. So it's right on the cusp. So, you know, it was too premature to make that decision in April because you have to make that decision before April 15th of every year to not re-levy for next year. So, at that time, it did not have the cash to pay off the remaining debt. But as of today, it will. And then, you know, again, having to levy an additional $3.1 million.
That answers the
It's going
question.
to have plenty of money. So really, I think the decision point when we talk to the Common Council is trying to figure out, do we want to close it by April 15th next year, which would help with our 2026.
In addition to that, at the time of the TID closure, the remaining surplus is also divvied out among those jurisdictions. So really, we weren't necessarily harmed waiting a year or even another year because that would be reallocated back out if there were some cash accrual in there at the end of the district.
Using this one just as an example, with no development agreements or anything in the district, once the levy is collected, does it just go into the fund?
Correct. Even though there aren't expenses. So again, that's where on this one, the project plan's been fulfilled. We have the cash to pay the debt service. So at that point, you know, really the question is, do we want to continue levying dollars even though we can't spend them? It does create a bigger fund balance, and we do get a divvy out. We get 32% of it at the end of the day, but that's really the question for the council to consider. TID number 8 is our Oakview Business Park. This located on the south side of the community. Again, pretty significant district, increment of about $146 million. You'll see that it's had its value grow pretty significantly in the last 5 years. We do have one outstanding development agreement with Stella and Chewy's, the one that we amended earlier this year. Its expenditure period did lapse at the beginning of 2024, so we can't enter in any new expenditures. However, we did approve a purchase and sale agreement 2 years ago to buy the land south of that hard corner of Howell and Oakwood. So those 25 acres, so that will be executed later this year. We'll have a debt issuance to fund that. So that's the last remaining expenditure for this district. This cash flow is very tight. Once we make that, this district's also donating $8 million to the lakefront. So this is one that conceivably will not close till 2029. TID number 10 is Master Lock. So this district's on the north side of the community along Howell up to College and Rawson. It is a smaller district in that it's got $22 million in increment generated. You can see a very small fund balance. We did have our agreement with Master Lock fulfilled last year, so no active agreements, no debt. This district also donates to the lakefront, pretty significant amount. So most of the excess cash until 2028 is tied up for lakefront donations. And it does have an expenditure period that lapses next year, so about a year from today, so September 7th of 2025.
So that one, if you just flip back, Max, the staff, Christy and her staff specifically, but staff for many, many months have been looking to, and I think there's been bits and pieces. We had a property owner, a business coming on the corner that went through Plan Commission maybe 18 months ago or so. And so the termination date, or excuse me, the expenditure period deadline is really important in this one because we have to have, if we are going to help spur that business development, we have to have that in a finance development agreement by 9/7 of 2025. So that if you hear about us working at that and trying to look for some tenants and really put that tricky business park together, given some of the soil and environmental issues that they're dealing with, we are trying to get that done before that expenditure period date. So just thought I'd preview that because it is something we work on actively and it does take some time. So things hopefully will be coming forward here in the coming months.
But when the expenditure date passes, what can the money be used for other than donating to another district?
If you have a prior obligation, so if you've entered into an agreement, you can spend the money, but the agreement has to be entered into prior to the expenditure period lapsing. You're also authorized to pay any debt service for any debt issued prior to the expenditure period lapsing. But that's really it. So the intention of the expenditure period and why it's 5 years before the termination period is that the state doesn't want municipalities entering into finance development agreements too late in the district's time frame. They don't have the return on investment, and it can essentially put a district upside down and then force you in a position where you have to extend. So I'm really trying to protect against that. Number 11, our Drexel Town Square. So this is our largest district in the community. From a value generation standpoint, it's generated $218 million. It has a fund balance about $1.4 million. A lot of that is set aside for future public improvements. It does have GO debt of about $36 million. So again, about 40% of all debt in the city lies in this district. We do have a couple parcels remaining for development. We do have proposals for 2 of those. Row projects, which will hopefully be moving forward later this year or early next year. But again, a pretty significant district, but you can also see that this one is also starting to run up on its expenditure period. So it's got about 2.5 years. So life comes at you fast. So I was looking at that earlier today. I was like, wow, there's really only decisions, but this district is pretty much, I guess I'd say, tapped out from a public investment. We have something programmed for the 25 CIP, but that's really it that we can conceivably do in the next few years unless we see some significant development activity really outside the Emerald Road development, because those agreements are structured in such a way that they're getting a pay-go, so they basically get 90 or 95% of their taxes back. So. TID number 12, the IKEA district, becoming a very large district just in the last few years, has generated about $160 million worth of value. It does have GO debt about $6 million, so pretty small, relatively speaking. It does have 4 active finance development agreements, and all of those are PAYGO. So those PAYGO being that instead of providing a developer incentive or a grant up front, we essentially commit to paying that grant over time as property taxes get paid. So we say you need to generate a value of X, and we will provide an incentive over up to this dollar amount each year to pay back for the taxes, say 90% of the taxes or 95%. So given that there are 4 PAYGOs in this district, a lot of the excess revenue is kind of tied up until those PAYGOs pay for themselves. Fortunately, some of them are overperforming. So specifically on the Highgate side, that first developer incentive payment is going to go out this year, but return on investment is going to be probably 4 to 5 years. So, because Hub 13 apartments are valued at much higher than they originally thought. Otherwise, certainly the largest portion to be developed on the west side is the approximately 19 acres south of IKEA, and then have about 6 acres that is south of the Milwaukee Yard that is up for development. So really two last anchor parcels. TID 13 is our lakefront district. Lakefront district has about $43 million in increment, with about 25 million of that coming just in the last year. So the multifamily property received its full value in 2024, as well as we saw some homes constructed. So in a very good position. You'll see a pretty significant fund balance that says $4 million. A lot of that is premium for capitalized interest, so we took out some debt that's interest only, and because the district wasn't generating the income to pay for it, we had to essentially over borrow to then pay the interest for the next few years. You'll see the geo debt is about $18 million. That amount will go up to about $35 million as of next spring. We do have to permanently finance lakefront bluff stabilization, so we've done those on anticipation notes for the last 2-3 years. So those will be permanently financed. So this district's debt burden will about double once that occurs. But again, this district's also receiving about $22 million in donations for other districts in the community. So the intention being those $22 million of donations can service the principal and interest of that debt issuance, $17 million or so.
And you see that very common where you capitalize interest, or you have a shorter term instrument and then a longer term, because of course you have that lag naturally just from a TID being created, especially if it's a new district, a TID being created, having a development project, having that development project build, then you levy in a year, and then you get the collection in the following year. So there's a natural lag built into this process. So you'll see these, especially brand new districts or with a lot of runway left in them, with a new project coming online or a first project. The lakefront's on its own different magnitude and scale, but that's very common for new districts.
Bid number 14.
Wait, I have an additional question, I'm sorry. So if I'm looking at this, if the county came to us and wanted TIF money for Bender Park, could they get it?
So we have essentially a project plan is a line of do not exceed, and there's a lot of permeability among the spending categories because it's the best laid plan. This one specifically is an environmental remediation district, so it was really long. It's 27 years to start with a possible 3-year extension. So I don't know. Sorry.
Question is if the county came to us
I'm
and
sorry.
asked for funding,
I think about the county so often, but not right there apparently. So we have in our project plan an allocation, I don't remember, in the several $100,000 range. When we created the TID project plan, we had an allocation in there for Bender Park improvements. I don't exactly know the language, but we do have an allocation. And we've signaled a willingness throughout the life of this district to certainly partner with the county on various capital items or improvements to Bender Park. So yes, we have the ability, the short answer.
TID number 14 is a single parcel district at the corner of 6th Street and Rawson Avenue, so on that northwest corner. Had some environmental issues. We had a district created in 2018. It was built out to the highest and best use value of that parcel is now $9.5–10 million. It does have some upfront debt or PAYGO as well. Really, this one just is riding out to the end of days. So again, one parcel, highest and best use. We're just paying a PAYGO at this point. So this one conceivably is going to be open for quite a while. And TID 15 is very similar. It is Drexel and 6th Street, so right across road on Drexel Avenue. So this one's 4 parcels, now 3 parcels combined. The parcel that's furthest west, owned by ICAP, that's the strip mall and the Aldi. So that's at its highest and best use. And there's 2 other parcels that could be redeveloped into a better use. But just given their size and geography, I'm not sure if the city will be asked to participate, just because it's not probably going to be too significant of a development. It might just be office use or fast casual restaurant. But again, this district, we do have 1 PAYGO, and that's for that far west parcel, and that's going to go on probably for the next 7 to 8 years. So for a little bit of time. And then lastly, TID number 16, Ryan Business Park. So this district was created in 2028, has a termination date of 2038, so a 20-year district. It's about 30 acres remaining for development. On the northwest side, those are the approximately 13 acres that we purchased earlier this year. So those are under city ownership, and then the remaining acreage is on the south side, and that's still owned by General Capital. Increment about $174 million. It doesn't have any debt anymore, but it has those outstanding TID increment or TID finance agreements, and it does have a PAYGO to pay for a lot of the road improvements in that intersection of Ryan and 13th Street to the interstate. So conceivably, it's probably going to be another 7 to 8 years before that gets paid off. But this district's also slated to donate $12 million to the lakefront, so keeping it open for a few years to make those donations. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions common council might have.
Just have one more question. Referencing the pie chart, is the 4% of the tax levy that's being used to pay the debt, is that a change from last year, do you know? Or is it always pretty similar?
It used to be a little bit smaller,
Okay.
so it's gone up a little bit. So if you recall, in the 2024 budget, we kind of did some maneuvering in order to make the public safety staffing plan work. So we were servicing a lot more of our debt with the utility aid, and we weren't utilizing the levy, but under state statute and levy limit law, you can have an exemption for debt service. So essentially what we did is we levied that approximately $2 million to help fund 7 police officers, 4 firefighters, and that was levied, but it was for debt service, and then we took those general revenues and moved it to the general fund to pay for those. So it's a little bit higher than where it historically has been, but again, 4% is an excellent position to be in. It's like other communities I've worked for, other colleagues I talked to, 15 to 20% is not uncommon for your general levy to service that.
Other questions for Max?
As usual, Max, good job.
Wonderful, thank you, Max. We will move on to item 9, and that is engineering, and that's consideration of a motion to award the City Hall office build-out project to the lowest responsive bidder, Campbell Construction J.C., at an estimated cost of $71,194. Max.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Sullivan, Assistant City Administrator, City Engineer. Before you is that motion to award the project to the lowest responsible bidder. As you recall, this is in line with our strategic action plan, part of our resiliency and capacity building. This is in direct working relationships with our finance department, kind of combining with our water and sewer utility, the marketing and public relations build out. What this will do is this will house basically 3 new offices, and then also the council chamber or council workroom. And then it will move and expand some of the storage for the city clerk. We worked with Rinka on the plans itself did some modifications to it to try to reduce our costs. That included not moving some walls and just some more kind of proactive engineering on it to reduce costs and also save some time. We were quite surprised actually with the bids, much lower than we anticipated. We were anticipating a little over $100,000. $71,000 is good price. We did speak with our architect to verify Campbell. They worked with them on numerous projects and said they're a quality engineer or quality construction company. So I feel very comfortable recommending moving forward with this build. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, seeing none, motion.
Clerk moves to award the City Hall office build-out project to the lowest responsive responsible bidder, Campbell Construction GC Inc., at the estimated cost of $71,194.
Marshall will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Marshall.
Aye.
And item 10 is also engineering, and it's consideration of a motion to award Chapel Hills Park Rehabilitation Unit Price Contract Base Bid and alternate bid 1 to the lowest responsive responsible bidder, Parking Lot Maintenance, Inc., at an estimated cost of $223,983.60.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm presenting this on behalf of our Department of Public Works. I'm Matt Trebetowski. Matt Sullivan, Assistant City Administrator, City Engineer. So this is the reconstruction of the park itself, some of the areas that are utilized for recreational purposes, basically taking the tennis court and making one tennis court and 2 pickleball courts, which tends to be a very up-and-coming type of activity that we're witnessing throughout our parks as we keep improving them. We're also going to be updating the basketball court itself, some more resilient basketball backboards and type posts. This will also include a backstop for one of the smaller baseball parks they have up in that neighborhood park. This would replace the older netting that is actually worn, pulling up from the ground. It's in very, very bad shape. This would improve it, give it a 20-foot, kind of a nice facelift for the neighborhood park. We'd also be doing a substantial amount of asphalt work on the pass, basically 10 feet from the park all the way to the front. We added that just to kind of touch everything up and make it look better and presentable. I'd be happy to answer any questions here.
Questions? Steve?
I just have a comment. I want to thank both Matt and the DPW for this. Had a number of residents asking about pickleball courts over there, so I'm sure they'll be glad to see them showing up near future.
I'm not familiar with this area, park, but does it have restrooms?
No, it does not. Most
That's
of my, I
it.
think most of our public parks don't.
I know.
Shine and Lake Vista are probably the only
Neighborhoods
ones.
typically don't.
Yeah.
The issue is that, you know who plays pickleball? It's,
Hey, it's all ages I see at my park.
yeah, well,
It's not.
there's
it's
a lot
not
of,
just
a lot of seniors playing too, so, that's one comment I do get about some of the courts not having bathrooms. I know one group that I've been playing with, we were playing down, off of Manitowoc Avenue.
Yeah, Manor Marquette.
Yeah, Manor Marquette, and moved over to Franklin because they had a restroom. So, just a comment.
Official, Jimmy, or port potties?
They had an official one.
Matt, what's the construction time frame on this?
So we're anticipating it starting this fall, but due to some of the constraints with putting down the coating on asphalt, we'll probably finish in spring.
Okay.
They do have the option of doing all the work in the spring. We did extend it to try to get some better bids.
Go ahead, Steve.
Jim brings up a good point. Maybe it's just something that we could look into. The pros of having porta-johns at some of the neighborhood parks where they have the pickleball courts for those that need frequent whatever would be positive is that they would have that ability, but the negative is any potential vandalism or abuse that the porta-john could take. But, you know, it might be something to look into. Just a thought.
Matt, how did this go through Park and Recs?
I can't speak to that. I wasn't present to the meeting, but I know they've been recommending this and they're recommending further ones in the future
Okay.
in regards to that transition from all tennis to tennis and pickleball.
Okay, just want to make sure Park and Recs.
Yeah, council will be visiting that this budgetary time. We'll be looking at transferring another park into that.
I just want to make sure the committee had input on it.
Yes, Matt tends to bring everything towards the Parks and Rec for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, motion?
Kirkowski will make a motion to award the Chapel Hills Park Rehabilitation Unit price contract base bid and alternative bid 1 to the lowest responsible bidder, Parking Lot Maintenance, Inc., at an estimated cost of $223,983.
Clark seconds.
Roll call?
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Ritz.
Aye.
Marshall.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
And item 11 is our vendor summary report, and it's consideration to approve the August 28th, 2024 summary in the amount of $635,589.04. Please take a look at your package, and if you have any questions, just please take the floor and address it to those that may be able to answer. Yes, I got a question. I don't know if this is tourism. Item 2, $5,517 to All Over Media for gas pump toppers. Are we advertising at local gas stations?
So I believe that's actually a health department expense, and I believe that's related to like overdose fatality type
Oh.
marketing. So like advertising on pumps about resources,
Oh, all right.
those types of services.
Thank you for that information. There's no other questions or concerns? Motion?
I'll move to approve the August 28, 2024 vendor summary report in the total amount of $635,589.04.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call?
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Ritz.
Aye.
Marshall.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
And just one standard announcement, school has started back up here in the Oak Creek area. It's that time of year. So our young students are finding their ways to schools in school buses, cars, and along the sidewalks, as well as some safe ways we have to school. They may be riding their bikes. I urge everybody to be careful, particularly in the morning when the sun's coming up on these fall days. It can be blinding, and safety first. So when it comes to the kids in the school buses, please show some respect and take your time. Other than that, if anybody has anything, if not, motion to adjourn.
Ritzel motion to adjourn.
Clark seconds.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Ritz.
Aye.
Marshall.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Okay. Excellent. Have a great week, everybody.